What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We got another project. We're going on a little road trip to pick up. It's about 35 minutes away from the house, and it is something that we haven't actually done before. At least the size of it isn't anything we've done before. So we're in the truck now, on the road, on the way to get it. So let's go pick it up, and when we get back to the house and unload it, we'll do a little overview.
In the middle of the line, and now I'm back down with the feeling, and I can lie. You know it won't be long until the end. Let the spotlight shine on me again.
Okay, well, it is the next day, and we are back in the garage. Obviously, we got back from our little road trip. So let's check out what we got. All right, I know it's something, I said it's something we've never worked on before, and we haven't. This is a 250. So what we have here is a 2007 KTM XCW250. It's carbureted 250cc. And we have a little bit of a problem, which is why we got it so cheap. She's locked up. Now, the guy that I got it from said that it was running, and he wasn't riding it. It was just idling. And it just stopped running, which I find that really hard to believe. But it's kind of clear, just with the engine. Doesn't look like it's been taken apart. There aren't really that many scuff marks on the bolts. I mean, it looks pretty well ridden. So, I mean, we got it on a gamble. It may have been taken apart at one point because the springs are off of the exhaust. So, I'm thinking they may have tried, but then said screw it. I don't know, but we took a gamble. It was $650, which, hey, you know what, the 2008 EXCR KTM 500 that we got, or 530, that was locked up too, and we actually turned lemons into lemonade. So that is the objective. The objective with this bike is to keep it under the 2000 mark, get it running, clean it up, put a little bit of maintenance on it, like chains, sprockets, grips, maybe some cheap levers. Actually, these look like shorties, either that or they've been filed off. It's a pretty decent filing job. Some decals from eBay, which will probably only be about $60. Rubber's good. A lot of elbow grease. Take it apart and see what's locked up. If it's anything like the 530, the bottom end bearings probably went out, and the piston is wedged in the cylinder. Hopefully there's no cylinder damage, because that just gets more expensive. But what we're going to do first is we're going to clean it up. We need to clean up the garage because I have got crap everywhere. Clean up the bench because there's crap all over that. And set up a side table so we can stage our parts that we take apart in a clean format. So let's go ahead and bust out the pressure washer and clean this place up and this bike up a little bit. All right, well, we got some stuff organized. I washed the car and the bike at the same time, so it's looking pretty good. Humid as hell out here, so I'm gonna roll it back in the garage, probably call it a night, and we'll pick this back up in the next couple days. Hopefully maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow's Tuesday. Yeah, I should be able to tomorrow after work. Not Wednesday though, coaching. But yeah, we'll just keep moving forward. We got it clean. Now we just disassemble. So I went ahead and I took the tank and the seat off. The seat is just one bolt underneath the fender. The tank is right here. Took the shroud off with it. We're gonna take this rear subsection off. It seems like everything's coming out pretty easily, so I'm guessing somebody got at least part of the way through disassembly. Hopefully they didn't get in there and find something catastrophic that I can't fix. Then again, I don't think there's much I can. So let's get this off. All right, we got the engine out. Clearly this thing wasn't really taken care of. But next step, we'll get it adjusted so it sits evenly on here, drain the fluids out of it, and then take the cylinder head off and see what we find. All right, we got the engine out of the bike and on the stand, and before I started recording my phone died, so I had to plug it in, but we were able to get it on the stand. I pulled the plug off and drained the oil. The oil actually looks really good. That's just a piece of, I don't think that's metal. I'll have to take a magnet to it down there. Could be. But the screen that was in there looked really good. I'll fish that out later. Now what we're going to do is turn this thing around and get it to top dead center. I was able to free it up just by putting a wrench, a 17 mil, on this stator. And I moved it back once and then tapped it forward and then tapped it back. And it clicked. Something clicked. I'm guessing it's the wrist pin bearing in the crank. and it dislodged the piston and backed it back down. It actually, I did it in reverse and it brought it back down. And now the whole engine's free. I can turn it nice and slow and the piston will go up and down. So that's a really good sign for us, especially when it comes to cost of repair. I think it was probably about halfway into the sleeve. So the head is good. I turned it over a couple times, still has really good compression. So we saved ourselves the head, which is the most expensive aspect. And now we'll just get it to top dead center, pull the camshafts out and the cylinder head, the sleeve off, the cylinder off, and then we should be able to tell whether or not the bearing in the crank is bad. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so the manual says to get it in top dead center, make sure you guys can see that, there are 2 indents, which I'm guessing since the valves are like this in there, we need to turn it a full 180 degrees, and the indents on the camshafts line up with this separation line right in the middle. So let me get the 17 and we will turn it to find top dead center. Let me get some light on that for you. Hopefully that's a little better. So this is, you can hear the compression building too. So we have a line here and a line here. Try to zoom in. With these gloves on, it makes it a little difficult. So there's one line, and there's the other one. So we're gonna line them up right in the middle there. Oh, a little too far. So once you have them lined up, looks pretty good right there. There's a screw that has a washer on it. It's the engine stop bolt. I believe it is right here. So let me move this so you can see. It is right there. And there's a washer on it. So you find your Allen, and you pop it off, take the washer off, and then put it back in, and it locks the gear and the transmission so that this stays about top dead center. Your lines on the camshafts. So we pull the head off, and wouldn't you know, that's a new piston. It's not in there backwards because the exhaust arrow is pointing, but typically if these are old, they'll have too many hours on them. The piston will actually have a lot more carbon buildup than that. So I think they recently replaced the piston in this, and then went to run it, and either the rings were sat wrong, or the bottom end was out. Let's keep going. All right, let's take a little deeper dive here. I'll show you what I'm looking at. Not supposed to sound like that. It's supposed to be nice and smooth. That crank is fried. Alright guys, it has been about 2 or 3 days. This thing's been draining the whole time. We got a box full of parts, so it is time to strip this thing down. So let's clean up everything right here, get the oil out of the way, get the bench ready for the case crack, and then we will pop off the stator and the clutch and the sprocket, and then take it over and clean up all of our gasket surfaces. Six. Ooh, baby. M26. Okay. 3/4. Yep. Okay. All right, we're back from the parts cleaner. Got it pretty clean, considering. Got to clean up the gasket edges, but we'll do that whenever we're ready to put it back together. For the most part, though, got pretty clean. Hit this thing, clean that up. Whenever we were cleaning it, a bunch of metal pieces from the races in the crank came out, little flat spots where the needle bearing had failed. So I'm sure we'll see some more of that once we crack it open. So let's go ahead and take the case bolts off, put on our case splitter, and see what we got going on. All right. Toast. All right, we got it cracked, and then took it over to the parts washer and rinsed out the bearings that we're not replacing to make sure there's no metal in them, and got all the sediment out of the bottom of the engine. Now we're just cleaning it up a little bit, getting any debris out of there, and then we'll pop these bearings out and replace the crank. So we got our gasket kit, crankshaft, and piston. I already checked the piston, it was correct. Look at this. Bottom end gasket. Some cool stickers that my son will love. Crankshaft that's been rolling around in the box for God knows how long. Got our bearings. Make sure they're not damaged. Oh, that's good. All right, so we got that bearing out. Popped out the center frame, the center with the roller bearings, and then there's a little lip inside this bearing that I was able to get a screwdriver on, and I just tapped it here, tapped it there, tapped it all the way around it, and it worked its way out of the seat. I put the new bearings in the freezer so that those will get cold, and then when we're ready to put them in, we'll heat this up with a heat gun, and then the other bearing race should just pop right in without any kind of fight. So cold bearings, hot case should slide right in there and So these bearings are good. This side's ready. We'll go ahead and get the other side and start working on that. It's going to be a little bit more difficult because there is a the transmission's still in it. So let's go grab that. All right, all these bearings are good. I would pop this out and set it aside, and I might have to figure out how to do it. There is a lock bolt down in there. Not sure if you can see that right here, that has a hold on the, I think it's on the slide bearing that the needle bearing that this sits in. And I don't want to take the whole thing, I don't want to take the whole, I don't want to slide the pieces off. I don't even think that they will slide off, so I don't necessarily care to mess with that unless it'll slide out easily. But it seems to be seated in there pretty good. If I tap it, leave that in. We need to get this race out, and then we'll flip this over and pound out the rest of it. We ended up having to take out just the one half of the transmission. This one's in there pretty good, and I don't want to mess with trying to get that bolt out. It's in a awkward spot. Bearing's still good, so that's fine. I just set it back up on the frame, got that race out, and then cleaned it out. And now we're going to heat this section up and pull one of the bearings out of the freezer and try to tap it down in there.
Broken but strong, gotta move on.
Update.
You are not a big
It is almost a week later. Had to order a new oil seal kit. The Wiseco one had to have been mispackaged because there's only like 2 seals in here that are the same as in here. So chances are they just sent the wrong, they packed the wrong seal in that gasket kit, because these are the ones that come in this engine. So now that we've got it sorted, let's continue, shall we? Okay, so we got our bearings sat on both sides. The other side put in, transmissions in there, seals are replaced for the most part. I think there's one or two on the other side I need to do, but we'll do those once I have the cases back together. Everything's greased up and good to go. This is back in neutral. Transmission's spinning freely. Bearings are all greased in here. We're just going to clean up the surface area a little bit and then put the cases back together. All right, so we got the engine back together. If you do this, there are shims on the stator side that I did not notice. Underneath that, those two little things right there are shims, it looks like. And they go underneath the bearing cap to eliminate a little bit of wiggle side to side. So in order to counter that, so I don't have to take the crank apart and try to get that race off and ruin that and delay the project another couple of weeks until I get a new bearing and sleeve and potentially damage the crank, I'm going to put this side together first and have everything pulling this way so that it's in alignment. So if I put this side together first, it pulls the crank this way in the seat versus putting the stator on and it pulling the crank that way. So we'll put the transmission and drivetrain side. All right, fast forward a couple days later, and we do have to take the engine apart. There are shims underneath, not this side, but the other side that we have to take out of the old crank. Yep. So I watched a video from Rocky Mountain ATV, and they had a special tool in the owner's manual that you put your crank in the clamp, and according to the owner's manual or the repair manual, you're only able to put the shims right here on the stator side, or magneto side as they call it. And this is the tool that I had to get. It is the race remover, so it just sits down on top of here like so, and you're supposed to be able to heat it up and then squeeze it and it'll pull off the race. So we got to heat this up and then immediately apply it. We're going to heat this up, and then we'll apply it to this and pull it off to try to get those shims out so we can have them at our disposal for the use on the new crank. All right, fast forward about 30 minutes. So it wasn't working when I heated up this side. I think because it was expanding this side and making it tighter. So I heated it for a second, and then I threw it in the freezer for about 20 minutes. At the same time, I heated the tool, the special tool, this thing, for about 10 or 15 minutes till it was really effing hot. And then when I pulled this out of the freezer, I put it on there and set the tool down on top and let it sit there for a couple minutes. And you could immediately tell that this had contracted because it sat down on to the race a lot easier. Then once the race itself had heated up a little bit, I was able to squeeze the tool and I could see the race moving. So then I just wiggled it back and forth and shimmied it up off of there. And now I have my shims. So I love science. What we're gonna do is pull this out of we'll pull it out of the vise, and then we will clean up a little bit and take apart the engine and pull the crank out so that we can take the race off the other side and put these shims on there so it doesn't have that shaft or that side to side play. We'll pull the crank out of the other engine, or the new crank out of the engine, and once we get that out, we'll pull the race off and put these shims on. So let's clean up a little bit, and then I think I might actually set up my other table, so let's do that. So as you can see, it seats down pretty good when it's warm, and this is cold. So this is cold, and the heat expansion with this being cold helps it slide right off. And then when we put the shims back on, it fell right back into place. Now we'll let the ring cool down and this heat up to room temperature, and this will be on there. It won't move at all. Love science. Okay, we are back to where we started at the beginning of the day, which We got the shims in there. There's no play in there. We just gotta put this all back together and keep on going, and hopefully we can get the bottom end together. And then we'll stop the video there, I think, because it's getting a little long. And then on the next video we will put the top end, set the timing, and then put the engine back in the bike. So carrying on. All right, once you've got everything situated, you got your Kickstarter in, you got your idler pulleys on there, your shift drum set and put in neutral, and your crankshaft sprocket on there, you're gonna want to pull out the idler for your water pump, which goes right there. It comes out with the water pump when you take it apart. Okay, so this video is getting a little too long. Ran into a bunch of issues and hiccups, just like any other project, trying to get that crank seated in there. Got the crank put together and then realized that we needed to order a new timing idler pulley bearing. So I'm going to put that on order, and whenever we get it, we'll pop it in, put the timing chain on, and move forward with the rest of the engine. But that's going to be it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next one where we get the engine in the bike and hopefully get it running. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. We'll see you soon.